Marcus Reid had been on exactly 3 dates since his divorce 2 years ago. All 3 were disasters. The first woman spent the entire dinner talking about her ex-husband. The second one asked if he had a real job, when he mentioned being a freelance graphic designer who worked from home. The third left after 20 minutes when she found out he had a 7-year-old daughter. "Kids weren't mentioned in your profile," she'd said, grabbing her purse. After that, Marcus gave up on dating entirely. He had his daughter Sophie. He had his work. He had a decent 2-bedroom apartment and a life that, if not exciting, was stable and peaceful. That was enough. Then his sister Maya started meddling. "You need to get back out there," she insisted over Sunday dinner while Sophie colored at the kids' table. "You're 34, not 70. You can't just give up on relationships." "I'm not giving up. I'm prioritizing my daughter. You can do both. In fact, you should do both. Sophie needs to see you happy." Marcus looked over at Sophie, dark curls bent over her coloring book, tongue sticking out in concentration. She seemed perfectly fine with their life. "I'm happy enough," Marcus said. Maya rolled her eyes. "I have someone perfect for you. Trust me." Marcus groaned. "No blind dates." "Absolutely not. Too late." Saturday night, 7 p.m., Rosetti's Italian. Her name is Elena. She's smart, funny, loves kids, and she's beautiful. "You're going." "Maya, I already told her about you. Don't make me look like a liar." Subscribe now. What happens when Marcus shows up will shock both of them. Saturday arrived too fast. Marcus stood outside Rosetti's at 6:58 p.m., straightening his collar for the 5th time, wondering if it was too late to fake a stomach bug. He dressed carefully, dark jeans, button-down shirt, the good leather jacket Sophie had helped him pick out. "You look handsome, Daddy," she'd said before Maya picked her up for their sleepover. "Like a prince." 7-year-olds were excellent for ego boosts. Marcus took a deep breath and walked inside. The hostess pointed him toward a table near the window. "Your date is already here." Marcus turned and saw her. Dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Green blouse. Warm brown eyes. Pretty smile as she looked up from her menu. Familiar smile. Very familiar. Marcus froze mid-step. "No. No, no, no." The woman stood, extending her hand. "Marcus, I'm Elena. It's so nice to." She stopped. Her eyes went wide. "Wait, you're Sophie's dad. You're Miss Ramirez," Marcus said weakly. "Sophie's teacher." They stared at each other in mutual horror. Have you ever walked into a situation so awkward you wanted the floor to swallow you whole? Elena Ramirez had been Sophie's 2nd-grade teacher for 4 months. Marcus saw her every morning at drop-off. Every afternoon at pickup. At parent-teacher conferences 3 weeks ago where she'd praised Sophie's reading progress and creative writing skills. He'd thought she was pretty then, of course he had. But she was Sophie's teacher. Off limits. Completely inappropriate to even consider. And now she was his blind date. "I am so sorry," Elena said, sitting back down heavily. "I had no idea." Maya said her brother had a daughter, but she never mentioned. "I didn't connect." "This is Maya's fault," Marcus said, sliding into his seat because leaving seemed even more awkward than staying. "She set this up. She knew. She couldn't have known I'm Sophie's teacher. I never mentioned your sister's name. But she knows where Sophie goes to school." They both paused, realization dawning. "She absolutely knew," they said in unison. Marcus pulled out his phone and texted his sister, "You set me up with Sophie's teacher. Are you insane?" The reply came instantly, "You're welcome." Elena was reading a similar text from Maya. She looked up at Marcus, half laughing, half mortified. "She says we're perfect for each other and we should stop being stubborn. I'm going to kill her. Can I help?" They sat in awkward silence for a moment. A waiter appeared, took their drink orders, and disappeared. Elena fidgeted with her napkin. "We should probably just leave. This is too weird, right? I'm Sophie's teacher. There are boundaries." Marcus knew she was right. The professional thing, the responsible parent thing, was to shake hands, laugh it off, and never speak of this again. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way Elena had looked at Sophie's artwork during their conference with genuine appreciation, not just teacher politeness. Maybe it was how she'd remembered that Sophie was nervous about reading aloud and had created a special, practice partner, system. Maybe it was how Sophie came home every day with stories about, Miss Ramirez said, and, Miss Ramirez showed us. His daughter loved this woman. And sitting across from her now, Marcus realized why. Elena was warm, real, the kind of person who made you feel comfortable even in the most uncomfortable situation. Or, Marcus said slowly, we could just have dinner. As friends. Not a date. Just two people who got ambushed by my meddling sister. Elena looked uncertain. I don't know if that's. Why does Sophie talk about you at home? Marcus asked. Because I hear about Miss Ramirez constantly. How you let the class have a cozy reading corner. How you do funny voices for different characters. How you noticed when Danny's family was struggling and quietly made sure he got extra snacks. Elena blushed. That's just part of the job. No, it's not. It's going above and beyond. Sophie feels safe with you. She trusts you. And honestly, that matters more to me than anything else. Subscribe before you miss how this impossible situation becomes something beautiful. They didn't leave. They ordered pasta and talked, carefully at first, avoiding anything too personal, keeping it light. But gradually, the conversation deepened. Elena told him about growing up in a big family where everyone talked over each other and Sunday dinners involved at least 15 people. About becoming a teacher because her second-grade teacher had been the first person to notice she needed glasses and was struggling to see the board. Marcus told her about the divorce, not the ugly details but the aftermath. How he'd fought for joint custody and won. How Sophie lived with him during the school year and spent summers with her mom in Colorado. How terrifying and wonderful it was to be the primary parent. You're doing an amazing job, Elena said. Sophie is confident, kind, creative. Those things come from good parenting. Or from having a great teacher. Elena smiled. Maybe both. 2 hours passed. Then 3. The restaurant began to empty around them. We should probably go, Elena said reluctantly. But this was really nice. It was. Marcus hesitated. Can I ask you something? Honest answer. Okay. If Maya hadn't set this up, if we'd met some other way, would you have wanted to go on a date with me? Elena looked at him for a long moment. Yes. Absolutely yes. But we didn't meet some other way. I'm Sophie's teacher. That complicates everything. What if it doesn't have to? Marcus, I'm not suggesting anything inappropriate. But Sophie's in second grade. The school year ends in June. That's 7 months. After that, you won't be her teacher anymore. Elena bit her lip. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we could be friends. Real friends. Get to know each other. Properly. And in June, when the school year ends and there's no conflict of interest, maybe we could revisit this conversation. Comment below, would you wait 7 months for someone you just met? Elena considered this. 7 months is a long time. I've waited 2 years since my divorce. What's 7 more months? She laughed. That's either very patient or very crazy. Maybe both. They exchanged numbers, for parent-teacher communication purposes only. Elena insisted with a smile that suggested she knew exactly what they were doing. Over the next 7 months, something unexpected happened. They became genuinely close friends. It started with co-parenting Sophie's school experience. Marcus would text about homework questions. Elena would share updates about Sophie's progress. Professional. Appropriate. But then Elena mentioned struggling to mount a new bookshelf in her apartment, and Marcus offered to help. I'm good with tools, and Sophie would love to see where you live. Sophie came along as the world's most enthusiastic chaperone. She helped hold the level while Marcus drilled brackets and Elena sorted books. They ordered pizza. Sophie fell asleep on Elena's couch during a movie. It felt like family. More playdates followed, always with Sophie present, always innocent. The science museum. The park. Saturday morning pancakes at the diner. Marcus and Elena were careful never to cross any lines, never to let it become more than friendship in front of Sophie or anyone else. But the connection was there. Growing. Undeniable. Sophie, oblivious to any subtext, was delighted that her dad and her favorite teacher were friends. You should see Miss Ramirez's apartment, Daddy. She has a whole room just for books. By March, other parents started noticing that Marcus Reid and Miss Ramirez seemed awfully friendly at school pickup. By April, there was quiet speculation. Elena's principal pulled her aside. I've noticed you've become close with one of the students' families. Elena's heart dropped. It's not inappropriate. We're just friends. There's nothing. I'm not accusing you of anything, the principal said gently. I'm just reminding you to be mindful of appearances. Even innocent friendships can be misunderstood. Elena told Marcus that night over the phone after Sophie was asleep. Maybe we should pull back, she said quietly. I don't want to risk your reputation or Sophie's comfort at school. Or, Marcus said, we could just be honest. We're friends. That's not against any rules. And in 2 months, the school year ends. And then what? And then I take you on a real date. Just the two of us. No 7-year-old chaperone. Elena laughed despite her worry. You've really been thinking about this. Every single day since Rossetti's. Subscribe so you don't miss what happened when June finally arrived. The last day of school was chaos, kids running everywhere, parents taking photos, teachers distributing report cards and summer reading lists. Sophie hugged Elena tight. I'm going to miss you so much, Miss Ramirez. I'll miss you too, sweetheart. But you're going to have a wonderful summer. Marcus waited until the classroom cleared. Then he approached Elena's desk, where she was packing up supplies. So, he said, 7 months. Elena looked up, smiling. 7 months. Still interested in that date. I've been waiting since February. They went to Rossetti's, same restaurant, same table by the window. But everything was different now. No awkwardness. No uncertainty. Just two people who'd spent 7 months building something real, finally allowed to acknowledge what it was. I have a confession, Elena said over dessert. I knew who you were when I walked into that first blind date. Marcus nearly dropped his fork. What? Maya showed me your photo beforehand. I recognized you immediately from school pickup. I almost canceled. Why didn't you? Because I'd been noticing you for weeks. The way you always made sure Sophie had her backpack and lunch. How you'd braid her hair even though you clearly didn't know how. I could see you'd watched YouTube tutorials. How you showed up to every school event even though you were the only dad there most of the time. You noticed all that. Marcus, I'm a teacher. Noticing things about families is literally my job. And I noticed that you were kind, devoted, patient, and, she smiled, really attractive in a totally inappropriate way that I tried very hard not to think about. So you knew. And you stayed. I stayed. Some people say teacher-parent relationships are always inappropriate. Others say love finds a way. What do you think? Drop your opinion in the comments. Marcus and Elena dated for a year before he proposed, on the last day of Sophie's 3rd grade year, with Sophie's enthusiastic approval and participation. They married the following summer in a small ceremony where Sophie was the flower girl and Maya gave a speech taking full credit for everything. I'm a relationship genius, Maya announced to the reception. I saw two stubborn people who were perfect for each other and I made it happen. You ambushed us, Marcus corrected. Exactly. You're welcome. Today, Marcus and Elena have been married for 3 years. Sophie is 11 now, thriving, and delighted to tell anyone who'll listen that her stepmom used to be her teacher. Elena left teaching after 2 more years, not because she had to, but because she wanted to try writing children's books. Her first book, about a little girl whose teacher becomes part of her family, became a bestseller. People ask if it was weird, falling for your daughter's teacher. If there were ethical concerns or professional boundaries that made it complicated. It was complicated, Marcus always says. But some things are worth being complicated for. Elena adds, we did it right. We waited. We were honest. We never put Sophie in an uncomfortable position. And we built a friendship first that became something more when the time was right. The truth is, blind dates almost never work. Teacher-parent romances are fraught with complications. Blended families require patience, communication, and work. But sometimes, when your meddling sister sets you up with someone impossible, and you're both willing to wait 7 months for something real, and a 7-year-old girl gets to watch two people she loves fall in love with each other properly and healthily. Sometimes impossible becomes inevitable. Subscribe now, because love stories that do things right matter just as much as dramatic ones. Marcus still has the text from Maya on that first night, you're welcome. He framed it and hung it in their kitchen. Because sometimes, the best love stories start with someone who cares enough to meddle, and two people brave enough to wait for the right moment instead of rushing into the wrong one.